Hey everybody, welcome back to today's live stream. It's going to be a nice chill Sunday stream, of course, for you guys today. We're finishing up a series from our live stream that we have worked on for the last, month or so. This is our 5th stream for that. And it's going to be fun. I'm really excited about what we're working on today. Today we're taking our CG render that we created inside of Blender and that we modeled, textured, lit it. And then I rendered this out yesterday and again this morning. I actually have 2 versions of it, and I'll show you guys those here in a second. But I'm first pulling up something real quick so I have a reference of something real quick. Mind me real quick. Just grabbing something. But we're going to be comping that inside of Nuke today. So we will be loading in our CG renders and then matching the color and making sure everything's perfect. We already had everything kind of like as far as color is concerned. It's already pretty close to matching. There were some small adjustments that I wanted to make compared to what we had last week, which was just some adjustments to the trees, some adjustment to the grass. So we rendered that stuff out using Cryptomattes inside of Blender. And again, all of these project files are over on the Patreon. A link to that is in the description below. And speaking about our Patreon, I wanted to give a special shout out and thanks to all of these wonderful people right here who help support this YouTube channel and help make things run. If you guys are part of the Patreon, you guys do get access to all the project files from every single live stream that we do, but then also you will get access to exclusive tutorials that are being made, as well as early uploads of all of our cut downs and stuff like that does go on to the YouTube channel. But yes, again, a special thanks to all these wonderful people for helping be supporters of the YouTube channel. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get to today's sponsor, which is Action VFX. Action VFX, you guys hear me talk about them all the time. Action VFX is a wonderful service that allows you guys to have assets that you guys can use in your side visual effects composites. Action VFX currently has a Black Friday sale that has started on November 26th, but it's still going on for 2 more days. They're offering 30% off on all credit plans and credit packs, plus a free asteroids and asset packs. They have fresh new releases every month, so stock up now and you can jump right on in and you get your next project needs. All right, guys, so go jump over to Action VFX. They currently have that Black Friday sale, which is insane. And like over on their website right now, you can kind of see that there's still 2 days and 8 hours left that you guys can grab your own assets and whatnot. So go grab those assets right now. And they have some 30% discount code that you guys can apply inside of your checkout with that. But that's really cool, and we're going to use a lot of their assets today, so you might hear me talk about this later, because today we're jumping back into doing some compositing. And compositing is kind of my favorite aspect of doing these render challenge things, because it's the thing that can take your CG shots to the next level. Okay, I'm going to keep this chat open up here, so in case anybody... I never hit the go live button on the vertical chat. Well, I'm going to hit the go live button on the vertical chat because I guess I never did that. But we're good to go there. Wait, end stream? What the heck is going on? Okay. I have no clue what's going on. But anyways, we are live on both the vertical chat as well as the horizontal chat right now. And we're going to jump right on in. I already have some goody things set up here. Just wanted to show you some of the render settings. I know last week we ended on not really getting to see a lot of the render settings that I used inside of Blender. I kind of briefly went through it, but I want to show you guys everything here in depth as well, so that way you guys kind of know what was going on. I ended up rendering out the comp here. That's actually the last frame of the comp here, but I'll show you some of the settings to make sure that we're all on the same page. I will update this Blender file because there was something else I noticed. When using camera tracking inside of Blender, it automatically sets up your scenes to have a foreground and a background scene. You really only need the foreground in our particular instance because we're not doing like live compositing. That's only if you're trying to do live compositing inside of Blender. doesn't really work for us in that case. The other thing was I did update the people on the board here. I was given a matte from Satya and updated our matte channel for that, so that way it would make everything super clean and professional looking. The other thing was I went into our compositing node tree, and we're not using nodes, and then I also removed all the excess junk inside of this composite over here. We basically are only outputting our image render layer here. That's the first thing, and then also when we're rendering stuff out, we're using I render stuff out at like 50% resolution of what I'm really going for, and then I enable I'll up-res that inside of the comp. That gives it kind of like this realistic blurriness aspect to things that we're gonna have to blur anyways inside of our comp to match kind of like how natural cameras have like this weird kind of it's like almost unfocusing that like real cameras have. It's hard to describe. Normally when you get CG stuff, it's too crisp and clean. That's the CG aspect of things, whereas cameras will, even if they're like fully in focus, they'll kind of have like this slight bit of blur to them. And so instead of us having to manually recreate that, it's really simple, is just to output this at 50% resolution and then up-res that inside of our comp. And I have found that to work tremendously well. I'm not saying that's like the best method, but it certainly works for everything I've ever done. And then of course we're rendering it out as OpenEXR multi-layer. Now down here you can't see because my face is in the way, but I am overwriting it to make sure it's ACES CG, but you can select all of that inside of your color management settings over here. Wow, all my screens are just very hard to see because my face is in the way, but essentially our color management that we're using is the ACES pipeline kind of workflow. And I had a video where I did do that. I showed you guys how to install all that stuff. I might actually make just a singular tutorial video that I'll upload, because I find that the ACES pipeline, I will die on this hill. I find that like I've talked to Victor quite a bit in the Discord about this. I actually think the ACES pipeline is like a way better pipeline to go by. I know that AGX is a similar broken off version of ACES, but ACES itself is just so much more streamlined, and it works in every single software. So when I'm working with a Houdini artist, or I'm working inside of Nuke, or I'm working inside of Blender, they all kind of can speak the same language and transfer that data. If you can import the Blender OCIO into Nuke, which you can, by the way, then yeah, you can load in AGX. The problem is that when you're comping with camera shot material as well as the stuff inside of your Blender, then they need to be able to speak the same language as each other. And your cameras might be shooting on a Red camera, or they might be shooting on an ARRI Alexa or something like that. And that's the thing about the ACES kind of config setup, is that it is prepared to import all of those different types of cameras. And specifically, like a DaVinci Resolve has like ACES just kind of like built into their system. So if you're creating your VFX plates, which I have a whole tutorial on my YouTube channel for that, if you're using that, then you definitely want to be using an ACES pipeline, because that's how essentially that all works. Ibra, welcome into the chat over on the vertical stream. How you doing today? Hope you're having a wonderful Sunday afternoon. But yeah, that's all the nerdy talk about the ACES pipeline. So that's all rendered out now, and got that imported. Let's see, over into my Nuke comp here. And this does not have any motion blur. I actually unchecked the motion blur inside of Blender when I was rendering it out, because it created this really, I'll actually show you. I actually have both these imported here. It made things too motion blurred. You can compare that to the background plate here, to the foreground plate of the CG that we have here. It makes things too motion blurred. I'm actually also going to clean up my comp today, because I have just been, this is all too messy, guys. We're not using over half this crap anyways, honestly speaking. Actually, we'll just delete everything. Let's just delete everything except for this. And then we're going to actually have to import our visual effects plate again, because I actually just deleted that. But this will give me an opportunity to show you kind of what we created over inside of Blender. This is the output that we currently have from Blender. This is the foreground piece, and we're going to want to have our visual effects plate in the background. Now I rendered this out over into our plate folder here, so let's just go ahead and import that. And I am using inside of Nuke an OCIO of the same one that I'm using in Blender. You can actually see I'm pointing it to the Blender data files folder, but this is actually the ACES pipeline. So when it says scene linear here, it's actually tagging this as ACES CG. So our foreground plate is ACES CG, our background plate is ACES CG, and then we'll be comping both of those together inside the same world. And this is where having two different programs speaking the exact same language is extremely important. And then we're going to just set this a little bit more correct with how our B pipeline should be, with our main plate being here and then this done over here. Now I've done, I did like a little pre-comp, which I'll just delete all of this stuff and we'll start over. But having our footage imported, the first thing we'll notice is that it's actually not in the RGBA channel. And that's because we're using multi-layer EXRs inside of Blender. So drop in a shuffle node here. And let's go ahead and swap the input here to foreground combined. And that's what's going to happen, like this. Trash, yeah, but we're going to make it better. See, that's the goal here. So using a shuffle node, we can drop in just a shuffle node like this. And changing the channels here on the B input, we'll just swap this over to combined. Now, coming from our Blender, we actually have different AOVs that we will be utilizing later. For instance, the Cryptomattes as well as normal passes. And that can give us the ability to relight stuff inside of our comp rather than having to do it all inside of CG, which can be very time consuming. If you have just all of your renders coming out of Blender and you want one light change, maybe you just want a little bit more soft light coming over the shoulder or something like that, to re-render that would take forever. I mean, I rendered these frames out, and this rendered pretty fast out of cycles at 2 minutes per frame. It was like 1 minute 48 seconds. For 84 frames, that's pretty long, you know, that's 3 hours worth of time. Whereas if you output, you know, your normals, you can actually relight this inside of your composite and save yourself hours and hours of render time. So we will be utilizing that later. So first, let's just swap our combined to our regular RGB channels here that we can then comp everything in. And as I mentioned, this is all at half resolution. So we're going to want to reformat this to be our full res, which again, we can set to 2K DCP 2048 by 1080. And we're going to need to format, let's see. We will then check this. Yep, that's correct. And then now if that's reformatting everything, we will then just merge that over top of our comp. Now, as I mentioned, we're going to have to do some color correction specifically on the grass here, because that was something that we were using from Botanic. Didn't necessarily have, you know, the correct assets that we wanted. I just wanted to use the assets that we had. We weren't modeling these ourselves. So sometimes you'll need to recolor grade stuff inside of your comp to match kind of the actual grass environment that we have here. Seeing as this is the shot from before, you'll notice that the grass doesn't really line up and it feels like it's from a different world, and we kind of want to make sure that everything fits with inside of that world. And this is where doing some proper color management, or not color management, but color grading inside of your comp is really going to come in, as well as those Cryptomattes that I was talking about earlier. So let's go ahead and import those Cryptomattes. We're going to do everything after this time offset here. And again, the difference between the motion blurred version and the non-motion blurred version is just that right there. I personally think that just looks a little too... We can add our own motion blur in. We don't need to use the motion blur out of Blender. And we could do all of that within comp. We have a lot more control over that inside of the comp. So let's go ahead and first add in like a grade node here. And then we'll go ahead and add in also a Cryptomatte that we will do as well. Now, if I plug this Cryptomatte in, and we just look at that. Whoops. if we just view the Cryptomatte here, you'll notice that everything kind of has this everything has a different color associated with it. And that is all controlled by our Cryptomatte object selection here inside of our properties. We can change this from Cryptomatte object to Cryptomatte material. Oh, my cam is off? Damn, I forgot to Did my cam just go off? Interesting. One second. I'll fix that. I don't know why my cam went off. Technical difficulties, baby. Let's go. I know I was going to disable my cam earlier. It says, yeah, there's no signal. It's fine. I got you. Thanks for telling me, Matthias. Did not see that. Let's see. I think I figured the problem out. The camera turned off, which is concerning to me because I'm wondering if there's a power cable issue. If so, and we have this problem again, I will fix this by just deactivating my camera as a whole. I apologize for that. Sorry about the technical difficulties there. You guys don't need to see my face in order for me to be able to stream this, though. So, you know, we're not losing too much, you know, entertainment. I guess it is the entertainment value. We're not losing too much of the production value. Yeah, see, it went out again. I think I'll just disable the camera for now. I don't know why that is the case. I'll just disable that over here. You guys can see more of the screen anyways, and then I'll disable it in the vertical as well because not quite sure what is going on, but and I'm just going to show a little bit more of my properties that I'm working on. There you guys go. Sorry about that, guys. I'll have to figure that out. I think my power cable is having an issue with the camera, and then my camera is low on battery right now, so I'll just keep the camera off for the rest of this stream. And looks like my camera turned back on. There we go. Perfect. Where were we? Right. We're talking about Cryptomattes. So anyways, with the Cryptomattes, you'll notice that everything kind of has its own separate color, and we're going to use this as our means of selecting which camera or which specific object that we would like to grade. So using our color picker tool inside of our properties over here, we can actually select specific elements that we would like to color grade. For instance, we're going to want to select all of these trees. Now, again, as I was saying right before we went on to the whole camera thing, we could select everything by crypto object, or we could select it by crypto material. And this is very useful if you have a lot of different objects that are using the exact same material, but you're going to want to change all of the materials inside of your scene to that object. So, for instance, in this particular case, with the objects, let's see, all of these rocks, for instance, have the exact same material. So if we do that, we'll see that all of the rocks are actually selectable by one. That's really useful if you're like, hey, all of the rocks in the entire scene, I want to make an adjustment to every single one of them, even though they're all a bunch of different objects. That can be a very useful way of being able to adjust all of that. So in our particular case, we're going to keep it all as object for this specific thing that we're trying to adjust. And we will select, maybe actually, I like material because all of the grass is on one. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll select everything by material. Let's, whoops, we want to not select our plate ref. And then we'll select these branches. We're kind of selecting all of the trees here. And if you see, if I go into the alpha channel now, you'll notice that all of that has an alpha selected on it specifically. And this is going to be very useful for us. So we already have our grade node set up over here. And if we go view that, again, we kind of have this entire environment done. We'll go ahead and select the mask and make sure that this is visible over on the vertical view as well. We'll go ahead and select the mask here and then just plug that over into our Cryptomatte. Now, if we go ahead and view our merge node here, we can actually make adjustments to this grade input that we wouldn't otherwise have. What VFX stuff are you going to add? Maybe some fire? If not, it's a possible video on Fire Day with Nuke. 100%. I don't know about fire. We might add some explosions. We might add some debris. And then, of course, as the jet flyer is flying past, we'll add some airstream marks and stuff like that as well. So I think those are the things that we're going to be adding today inside of Comp. Obviously, adding a couple things like the grain, of course, maybe some a little bit of lens distortion or extra hammer shake if we want that. Okay, great. Next up, I like to disable this. This will make the next stage a little bit easier. Let's go ahead and zoom in on our footage here, and you'll notice that this green here doesn't really match the saturation color that the background greens are. So we'd like these two things to match each other as much as possible. So something I like to do is select the color picker tool on our white point and then select the highlights of the green inside of our tree value here. And then we'll go ahead and select the black point of our tree and set it to the shadows of this tree. All right. Now we're going to want to map these two values to our tree colors back here. Again, because we're just trying to match all of this stuff. We'll see how the rest of the bushes look like with all of that as well. But we're first just trying to match these two things. So we're going to set the lift of this value here. We're now going to map it to, let's just say we want to do this tree here. I feel like it's got the same comp. So the lift is going to be your shadows. Let's go ahead and select the shadow value of that lift. And then the gain is going to be the highlights. So we'll select the highlight value of that. Now if we re-enable this, you'll notice that these trees here kind of match these trees back here. I find now that if you just mix this back in slightly, you'll kind of be more in that world that you're going for. The shadows are less harsh, but of course our actual grass doesn't look correct whatsoever. So we're going to actually want to fix this. We're going to fix this by just making it separate Cryptomatte layer rather than actually selecting everything. We are fine with doing all of the trees at once, but let's just make these grass elements done after the fact. So we'll go ahead and select another Cryptomatte. Let's go ahead and add in another Cryptomatte. Again, plug this. Let's probably keep all of this organized here, so we'll just do it like so. So yeah, we'll have another Cryptomatte here. And then again, we'll just zoom in. If we view this Cryptomatte layer, we can actually select our grass again. So let's do material. And let's go ahead and select the grass. These are all these bushes. I think we're fine with not selecting the bushes for right now. We'll just keep grass in there. Add in another grade node. Go ahead and disable both these grade nodes and go back to viewing this grass element. Actually, I suppose we could probably view just the straight up merge of this for right now. And here's the thing. This grass is a lot more shaded than the grass that's over here. So we can't do a one-for-one comparison of the two, but we can definitely adjust the highlights, which will just be the white point. So let's go ahead and select the green that we have for our grass element there. And then let's go ahead and find a green element over here that we would like to match it to. So we'll set the gain value to that. I think that should work fine. So now let's go ahead and enable all of that. And that already is a lot closer. Let's go ahead and mix this back in a little bit. And then I like to also add in, let's just add another grade node. I think with this grass here, we might want to select just more of a yellowish tinge to it. And already you can see if we just disable all of this, where we're at, everything is already starting to line up a little bit better. I might, after, just add a little bit of contrast into our trees. Perfect. And again, we'll just set this to input, I think, or not. Global's fine for right now. Just play this back and see what our sequence looks like with our CG kind of implemented into the world. Again, this is without us doing really too much work. Just dropping it in and seeing what everything looks like in playback. And it has no motion blur in it yet, so we will have to adjust that as well. Well, so far so good on this. I am thinking we're going to want to have some kind of motion blur, because for right now it doesn't. Oh, why? Oh, do I have a shortcut that actually pops the camera up? Oh no, I accidentally pressed F3. That's what happened there. This is just supposed to focus. 1 second. I'm going to reset this for the vertical viewers over there. Hold on. Pause for a moment. There you guys go. This is your janky service brought to you by your your weekly VFX stream. Let's go. Okay. All right. So now that's all done. I want to add in some slight motion blur. I actually noticed that these cameras that they're filming on have really no motion blur. So if we just add in a tiny bit, I'm going to actually set the samples here to 10. We'll set the shutter speed here to like a 0.25. So it's really not going to be that much motion blur that we're adding to this thing. Maybe even less than that. Let's do a 0.1 here. So now if we go ahead and play this back, everything's going to have like this extra little bit of motion blur that we're really adding into that shot. We're going to want this to happen after pretty much everything else, though. So we're just going to make sure this is lower on our stack that we're utilizing here. And perfect. You are awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. You are too. Let's see. I'm actually lifting everything in order to see this. This is another little trick to do inside of your comp. I know in vertical you might not be able to see it as well, because I think it's actually cropping it. I have no clue. But there is, of course, the 3 adjustments on the top of your viewport that you guys can adjust, which is your f-stop as well as your Y for adding a little bit of contrast to see different parts of your shot to see if anything's breaking. And then, of course, you can adjust your saturation. Now, this is a newer feature inside of Nuke. I know that they added this to more of the later versions. I think this just came out in 14, right? Nuke 14 or 15. I think this is a new Nuke feature, but this allows you to see if anything breaks inside of saturation and kind of making sure that everything sits with inside of the same environment. But yeah, let's go ahead and play this back with motion blur just to see how that looks. Now, because we're kind of seeing our guys in full, you know, visibility here, I almost think that we need to... Let's see, if this was set to a 0.5, what would that look like? The problem is that you can't really add that much motion blur. I'm curious if we... Actually, just want to test this, all right? So let's go ahead and set this to a 0.5 on the background samples here, because we do know that we did use 0.5 for the actual Blender renders, and I'm wondering if this will match up. My biggest concern was not to have the motion blur, but was the fact that the two didn't really line up. So if we take the... this is our foreground elements here that all have motion blur now applied to the grass elements. And then we go ahead and also add that same amount of motion blur to the background plate of everybody. Then everything should just line up. Which it does. And now we're getting... Because I think that motion blur is very important for the fighters flying overhead. Otherwise, we're losing just so much. We're just losing so much. Of the impact of that scene. My one problem with this comp was, or the initial plate, was just how heavy the lighting is overhead. It makes it hard to see these guys. I think from an artistic perspective, you really want to be able to see your actors. Okay, that works really well. I like that. Now, with these jets flying overhead, okay, there's some like paint issues that I think I want to fix. For instance, if we go to the edge of the shot here, I just want to point out I'm not exactly happy with the way this looks here. Let's see. Sorry, I gotta fix my vertical stream over here because I actually have people watching on the vertical stream, so so you guys can see. I'm not really happy with how the lines are with this going into this concrete surface. It feels too sharp. It feels unrealistic to me. So let's go ahead and try to fix that. We can fix that simply by actually tracking. This is all going to be just 2D fixes. I don't want to take this over into Blender and do a re-render. Oftentimes, if you're doing a 2D comp, you will not have the ability to do that either. So there might be things that you need to fix that you can't ask the CG artist to go back and fix because they don't have time to re-render it. Maybe the queue is being taken up by other shots. So in order for you to fix this, we can just do this inside of our sequence over here. We'll go ahead and just keep everything inside of the Nuke comps. I'm going to focus on this above here. Right after we do our shuffle node, we're going to want to do our paint out essentially of what that's going to look like. Okay, so we do need to track this and stabilize it. That way we can do all of our work inside of Nuke here. I think a simple, let's use a planar tracker. If I had Mocha, I probably would just do this in Mocha. It would probably make things a lot easier. But inside of here, let's go ahead and just select the surface area in which we would like to track. I might actually do this. Let's go ahead and erase this real quick. We'll go to the last frame of our sequence here. We're going to use this as our main kind of reference frame for everything. Let's go ahead and add in our roto that we would like to track. Probably just something simple around that area there. Perfect. And then, of course, at the top here, if we select set current frame to reference frame, we're going to want to make sure to enable that. Our keyframe is now set to this frame 1093. We can go ahead and just like track backwards. Now this is going to do it on the transform, scale, rotation, shape, I think shearing, and what's this called? Oh, right. What is that? Wow, my brain just went blank there. Actually, I'm going to delete this. I'm sorry. We're not using the time offset here. We actually need to be using time offset because our frames that we imported are on frame 1. So let's go ahead and redo that. Planar tracker. Keep everything in the kind of that same world of like what frames we're actually utilizing. So we'll go back to frame 1093 here and add in our roto, which this is going to actually service us pretty well. We have these blue marks over here, and I'm not quite sure where those came from. Unless, is that like a render error or something that I accidentally left inside of my Nuke or Blender scene that I didn't know about? All good, we can remove those. Let's see where we're at here. So if we go view this now, we should have a decent track. And this should work for our paint out that we're trying to do here. So let's do stabilize. If we do a stabilization here and then just plug that into our time offset. And then I'm going to do a corner pin relative. And we'll just plug that in at the bottom here. Now, what is that going to do for us? If we go view our stabilized version of our shot here, hopefully, if our track was successful, should keep everything pretty flat here, which it does.
This will allow us to do all of our paint out work just on this section of the image here while it's not moving. And then we'll reapply that under our relative corner pin here. This is going to replace everything after the fact. So just as a little bit of a test, let's go ahead and add in a roto paint into our shot here. And just using the paint tool, I can actually just show how this would look. We're just going to pretend that we're going to paint the wall here. That's basically what we're trying to do. And make sure that the lifetime of this is set to all frames. Just go ahead and disable that for right now. And of course, if we go backwards in our sequence, and if we play that back, you'll notice that these white lines are now moving with our shot. Because we stabilized it first, now we can do all of our work inside of 2D on that stabilized section. And you can do that anywhere you want. I like to just do it on that last frame because that's the frame that we're using as our reference frame. And it'll extrapolate forwards. As long as our track is good, I think... yeah, it kind of like goes wacky there at the end, so that's just something to be a little bit cautious of. We can always do actual manual keyframe tracks inside of there. That way, you know, we don't have to utilize this as soon as it starts going crazy. It does go crazy when the spaceship or the ship flies overhead. That is a for sure. And we can, let's see, I want to be able to see that. Can I think I can edit that. If these were actual keyframes, we'd be able to edit it for sure. But I think if I go into the correct plane here, we can actually correct our different elements. Let's go ahead and just manually grab these corrector planes and then just drag them backwards. That should just help fix everything. Oh, I think I just screwed that up because I don't have keyframes directly before that happens. But what we can do is select our planar track, and we can actually delete to the left here. Clear the tracking data backwards. And now we can just, on this frame, I believe is this already has a keyframe here. So let's go ahead and select everything and just manually drag that. And then now with this, let's go ahead and select it again. And then we just keep tracking backwards. We just have to go the last few frames. Whoops. And again, when that last ship flies in, have this whole thing selected, and then we can add in another keyframe, delete everything to the left. Perfect. And then of course that ship flies. We can even probably manually keyframe these last few ones. We're not really going to be painting too much on that side of the whole thing, but now that the keyframes are all set up there, then everything should line up. Looks like model plane scale is off. Also fast as jet would fly, it would just smear the second of the screen. Even the tank looks small. Alright, dude. Actually, the tank is the correct size. I actually scaled everything properly. Fun fact. One fun thing I've always found with VFX is it doesn't matter how good a VFX shot is. Somebody's always going to complain about something. Believe me, I've worked in the industry long enough to know that. So let's just test this out again. And we'll go ahead and track this or play this back and just see how that looks. So now that's viewing the rotopaint. Let's go ahead and view the relative corner pin again and just see how that is. We're going to have to reapply kind of the background into it as things are being cropped. Is Nuke hard to learn? Nuke is fun. I think the thing that I first struggled with was I was using After Effects back in the day. I feel like every single artist ever uses After Effects. And that was the thing, was coming from that, it's just a layer-based system, and that can really change your mind on how VFX works. So if you're stuck in the layer-based system and you use other softwares like Blender, or you use softwares like well, nowadays you have Unreal Engine, which is also using node-based, then I think that going into Nuke is a lot easier, because as long as you're referencing kind of like shader editors or the blueprint style inside of Unreal Engine, then everything will start to make sense inside of Nuke, because it really is just using nodes and understanding that. The hard part really kind of is knowing all the different nodes, because there's, you know, hundreds of nodes inside of Nuke. That was the hard part to really, you know, wrap your brain around, is which nodes to use for what. You're currently learning Blender as a hobby. It's fun. Yeah, Blender's great. I've used it as a hobby since I was a kid. I definitely recommend it to anybody. I think it is definitely the future for the 3D industry as a whole. Hey, Jimmy, welcome to the chat. How you doing? A lot of new faces today. Okay, looks like my keyframes aren't really coming over correctly for this corner pin. All good, dude, all good. Okay, so now with this rotopaint, we can actually probably just delete this, and we can do our actual work that we want to be doing. We're going to kind of project our work over on top of it. I want to mostly utilize and fix this right side of the wall. That's the thing that's bothering me the most. So let's go ahead and add in a paint node. And I want to kind of blur out this line a little bit. It's a little too harsh for me. So let's go to this last frame here, 1093, and fix that. First, by just using a blur node. Now, there are a couple ways. I mean, there's new stuff that we can definitely do as well. One thing I found very useful is just taking stuff over into Photoshop and doing your paint work over inside of Photoshop, because now, I mean, hell, I mean, you can do the paint tools are better, but secondly, the other thing that's really awesome about using Photoshop is that they have the whole new generative fill method. So if you don't like some CG stuff, you can project, you could do all your CG work, then take it into Photoshop, fix it with a matte painting, and then project that back into your 3D scene. So there's definitely a lot of ways to use these new tools that are coming out for your benefit. Definitely don't shy away from using new tools as they're coming out. I've noticed the last couple years that a lot of people are really afraid of embracing new tools as they're coming out because they don't want to get in trouble. But I think you will get left in the dust if you don't try out the new tools, especially Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is a very strong and powerful tool that I definitely recommend a lot of young people to get into using. And, there was a lot of pushback of Unreal Engine when it was first coming out by industry heads. And then, now look what that software is doing. So we're going to try to soften this edge up a little bit. I'm going to try to paint in some of this texture here over top of our metal plating. Wait, it feels a little bit more ingrained and like it's inside of that world. What we could have done in 3D was paint in that sand texture scene as well. This is a set extension scene, Jimmy, where we are taking a VFX plate that we had. This was the initial VFX plate that we had, and then we are comping in this entire set that we created in CG. So this is actually part 5 of a live stream that we've been doing for the last month or so. And today we are getting into doing some comp work. Really excited. Is that from a paint? What is this up here? That's a blur maybe? I don't know. Let's erase it. I don't like it. I'm just painting a little bit of the edge there. Nice. Thanks, man. Yeah, we do. I try to do live streams once a week where we try different visual effects stuff. I'm a VFX soup, and I work on features, mostly Netflix films and HBO Max films. And I don't do much 3D myself, so really I started this channel just so that I could do more 3D stuff, because I'm more of a compositor than I am a 3D artist. But I'm certainly liking doing this for the time being. It's a good little weekend activity. I'm going to just paint in some of these browns over here on the main plating as well. I like this blend a lot better. This is just through this roto paint node that's just feathering out these edges. I think works really well. Oh. Oh, I just used the grab tool. I was like, what am I doing? Just breaking stuff. The only issue we're going to have, I think, is I'm sampling a lot of these colors from this side of the image, and as the camera's moving out, we're actually going to lose that. Maybe because we're not doing too much of a parallax, I might be able to get away with using some kind of like a frame hold on this. Let's go ahead and try doing something crazy here. Let's create our own matte. Matte painting here. I'm going to just set this merge over here to a stencil, and then we can invert our roto that we have. Let's go ahead and just select this this edge that we're painting here. We don't need to have the whole wall that we're painting, and we don't actually need that paint node to have everything go all the way across. You started like a year ago? That's awesome, dude. Congratulations. Definitely recommend. We have a Discord. You're over on the vertical chat, but you can find it on my YouTube channel. Share some of your stuff. Got some great artists in our Discord, and I always find sharing stuff in that is very useful to get, good positive feedback. We'll set this over here. We'll pre-multiply it. And I'm going to take this and merge this back over top of our original footage. So now this is just basically a matte painting of that little section there. I might even blur this. Let's go ahead and just drag this upwards a little bit. So now if we go ahead and view that, you'll notice that we just have this little sliver of a section there that we're basically going to be placing over top of our original photo. And yeah, let's see what that does. Beautiful, dude. Okay, great. And then I'm going to keyframe this out. Let's actually, 1 second, delete this keyframe. And by the time we're at this frame here, we could probably just fade that out. And we don't have to do any roto or anything of any elements in front of it, because nobody's running in front of it. So that actually works really well. Cool. So let's just play back that shot again with that feathered edge over there. I'm actually going to disable my my overblasting of the f-stop so we could see everything of the shadows easier. Let's go and just view the shot as is here. That feels so much better now. Another way we could have done this is we could potentially, in hell, we could still do it actually. Why not still do it? Because there are some other things I might want to paint out as well. Some weird, like, what is, so I think our grass, we're just blowing out the grass too much when we're doing our adjustments up here. Here's what we could do instead. Let's keep that one, but not do this one. Also, it's very possible, yes. That's why. I happen to know why. Let's select the Cryptomattes from all the way up here. Yeah, it was because of this whole corner pin situation. I was like, I don't remember seeing that jankiness before. There we go. Works so much better. Sometimes with Cryptomattes, I've noticed if you do any reformatting before the Cryptomattes actually selects the stuff. Sorry, for you guys vertical viewing. I've noticed that if this was selected to here, right? So because it was selected to there, the corner pin was basically stabilizing it and then reapplying the stabilization or the move. And because of that, it was screwing up the Cryptomatte channel. I've noticed that the AOVs do get screwed up. I don't know if that's a bug or if that's just... I don't know. But we have a solution now, so that's all that matters. I'm going to just hide our input here so that way we don't have to worry about lines everywhere. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and play that back again. I'm thinking we'll add in some nice air trails from this jet that's flying overhead. The other thing that we might want to do is now track just like this foreground motion here, so that way we can add in some atmosphere or something like that into our shot. Let's go back to the starting frame here. Now let's just view our plate. Is there any easy stuff that doesn't leave the frame? I don't know. Could always do this in 3D by just outputting an Alembic camera, but I don't want to do that, guys. I don't want to. But let's do it anyways. Select your camera that's over inside of your Blender scene. This, you could ask your 3D artist if you're not the one doing this, but we're just going to do it ourselves. So let's go ahead and select our camera that we have over inside of our 3D environment. And let's also select the ground, which is going to have that mountainside as well to it. Let's see. I might want the stairs. I don't know. Let's just select the ground and the camera for right now. We'll go up to File and then just export ourselves the Alembic ABC of this. And again, let's go ahead and fix you guys over here. Great. And we're going to go ahead and just output this. I'm going to create a whole new folder. Don't judge my folder structures, okay? This is just for a live stream. I'm not going crazy on my folder structures. All right. Okay, now inside of our Alembic file over here, I'm going to specifically call this camera. It's going to have a little bit of the environment, but doesn't matter. Keep the scale set to 1, and we'll go ahead and do all of these frames accordingly. We'll do selected objects only, rather than trying to export the entire scene. And let's see, is there anything for animation? Thought maybe there was. Maybe that's... Oh, we just crashed Blender. See, that is what we strive for on our weekly live streams, is crashing softwares. One by one, of course. Next up is Nuke. That's why we go back and hit the save button immediately. Whenever you hit one crash, you immediately go back and hit the save button. Alright, we'll do this again. So, camera, ground, Alembic file, selected objects only. Everything else is good. Export. And it crashed. Okay, we'll just try just doing the camera. We'll see if just doing the camera fixes our problem. Yeah, just select the camera, file, export, ABC. We'll just do selected camera or selected objects. No? Okay then. Let's move on from that, because I'm sure the problem is that it has something to do with the motion tracking that I did internally into Blender. It's fine. We can simply do it this way. We're going to use a camera tracker inside of Nuke. Go ahead and do that real quick. We don't need that many tracker nodes or anything like that. We don't need any undistorting of the lens distortion. It's just atmosphere. Let's just track this real quick. Doesn't need to be perfect. It's atmosphere. We can get away with a lot with atmosphere. As long as it's roughly correct is all I'm really asking for. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and hit the solve button there. Wow, that is already a good solve, but we're going to make it better. Delete your rejected, delete your unsolved. I'm actually going to also make sure that my music is going to loop, so that way it's not looping. And then let's go ahead and hit the max errors here. We're going to lessen the amount of that. We're going to try to just get this better. It's already great. You know, we've got a solve error of 0.27. But we can lessen certain numbers here to try to get it a little bit better. And yeah, let's go ahead and load in our scene. I'm not going to link outputs. I always find that linking outputs is so much slower. Fantastic. Now with our camera track, we're going to make sure that this is set to off. Cool. Let's add in a card just to see how this looks. Let's say we want to have our atmosphere here, which is going to be a nice foreground point. We're going to just right click that and then add in a card. And that card is going to be added into your node graph. And if we connect that to our scene now, go out of our tab view, you'll notice a big black plane. If we add a checkerboard, we'll be able to see this a little bit better. It is our card. And we can place this card wherever we want inside of 3D space, because now it is a 3D plane. And even better, what I like to do just to see exactly how well this is going to look is adding a merge node in below this scanline render, and then removing that BG from the scanline render. And now it's going to be merging everything below it. Now, why do we want to do that? Well, it's because this is now our A of our merge, and this is our B, which will allow us to change the transparency of this really easily. So we're just going to go ahead and do that real quick, and then just play this back. See how well our card got placed into our scene. And what we're going to use is some amazing assets from our wonderful sponsor of today, Action VFX. Which Action VFX, by the way, for all you guys that weren't here at the beginning of the video, has a 30% off discount for all of their credits packs for the rest of the year. Or I think it's for the next 2 days, but it's for the entirety of the year. They drop new assets every single month, so go grab some assets now. Wish I had an affiliate link, but they don't have an affiliate program anymore. But we're going to be using some of those assets right now inside of our shot. You can tell that this track is already pretty solid. Everything is super grounded for us. And we're going to go ahead and just drop in some assets where we want them. So let's go ahead and load that in. I actually have the website already open. I'm going to go ahead and look at my downloads of stuff I already have inside of my library. But you guys can go ahead and grab whichever assets that you guys would like for this shot. Now there's dust waves, which I think we might utilize later when the fighter jet is flying overhead. But we might want some just generic atmosphere. So we have this atmosphere, smoke, and fog. We can grade that to be whatever we want. We have some nice atmosphere here, and we have some nice foreground atmosphere as well. I think we might go with let's look at this. We've got some nice fog in here. Might just grade this to be what we need it to look like. There we go. Kind of like that. Let's see. It's a little more bloomy. That's pretty nice. Let's actually do this one. Evaporation fog. Go ahead and just download this real quick. Drop this into our live streams projects folder. If I can ever remember where everything is organized on my computer. Go ahead and put this inside of materials, and I'm actually going to rename this to assets. And go ahead and save that in there. Now this is pretty straightforward. We actually now have this guy in here, and I'm just going to tag him as sRGB or 709 or something like that. Probably just do output 709. And you'll notice that we now have this awesome fog in here. If we go ahead and just change our image from our card to that, we will see that over inside of our comp. We make sure that we're not losing it completely. But here we go. This is our dude. But he's got a black background, and there's a couple ways we could remove that. I found sometimes the easiest way is just using a merge node and then using the mask from your image there, and then just setting this to like red or something like that. And now if we go view this, you'll notice that the alpha channel is just this evaporation fog directly on the image. It is a little hard to see in here, and that's because, let's see, this is our merge of where that stuff is placed. Let's go ahead and just drag our card upwards a little bit. So now our smoke is going to be on the ground here. Whoops, that just scaled it up. I don't really want that, but we mostly want this to be sitting on our ground. So now if we go look at that, you'll notice that everything feels a little bit more smoggy in our scene. We may also now want to do some grading, so let's go ahead and add in a grade node. And we can set this to whichever value we want. So if we go ahead and disable our merge, we can go ahead and change our gain of our white fog that we have to maybe like a musty dirt color. So let's go ahead and swap it to like a dirt brown that's already in our scene. And if we add that merge back in, you'll notice that now we have kind of like this smogginess inside of our scene. Change the multiply, lift that up a little bit. There you go. We already have a little bit of nice smoke in there. Maybe adjust our card placement a little bit. Fantastic. So now we have this smoke lifting everything up. But again, this is on our original VFX plate. Let's go ahead and play this back, just see what this looks like against the original VFX plate. You'll notice that we actually have a hard line here. We're going to have to fix that. That's the end of our card and the end of our texture that we're placing on that card. The tracking looks pretty sweet. The only thing I might want to check against is, what does the input of this look like? Yeah, we do have frames there. One thing to note, videos do come in at frame 1 is where they're kind of starting, so just make sure that you are accounting for that. And then the other thing is we might want to have different smokes in different areas. But before we get to that whole trickiness, let's first give ourselves a little bit more room here. Probably going to just clean this up a little bit better. More self-contained here. With our smoke, we already actually have our alpha being set by this merge node there. We know we're not seeing the right side of the smoke, but we are definitely seeing the left side of the smoke. So we need to fix that. So let's go ahead and just drag this card over here. And let's go ahead and add in another merge node. And we're going to add in a roto node here with, let's swap these inputs, the B being at the top. And we're going to just set this merge here to a stencil. Perfect. Now what does that do for us? With our roto being pre-multiplied, anywhere we draw our new Bezier curve that we're going to add in, it's going to erase. Okay. And because of that, we're able to create our own feathered edge that we weren't able to have before. So all we have to do now is just add in a blur node next that's connecting to this stencil that we have here. And all we have to do is then blur that up. I like to set this to like a value somewhere close to like 300. And it makes this now a nice fall off at the edge of your smoke. Great. Now, we're not going to see that hard line that we have there. With and without it, let's go back a few frames to the opening of the shot. And if we remove that stencil, you'll notice that we have that hard line. Now we don't have that hard line. And we can do that for any of the assets that we have that we're going to add in. So now we have kind of like this big smoke bloom here. I might take this A input now. We have to merge this back. Whoops. Let's grab this whole section and just drag this over here. And I'm going to hide the input of this value here. But, and we'll also erase this lens distortion here. We're going to drag this merge node over and just add in a point down here so that way that can connect a little bit easier. And then the B input is now just going to be our CG output of our shot. So essentially what we're doing is we're having the camera tracking come in from the original plate from there. And then it does all of the tracking. We place in all of our 3D cards of what we want for the smoke to be at inside of that scene. It renders everything out as over alpha, essentially, of where all of our smoke elements are going to be inside of 3D space, and rendered out using the scanline render node. And then we're going to merge that back over top of our original plate. Or not original plate, but over top of our composited VFX shot. And that's going to happen after we comp in our CG elements. That way the smoke is kind of over top of everything. So now let's go ahead and play this back with the CG elements and see how that smoke looks like with all of that going on. One thing with these evaporation fog assets that I'm using is they're very slow because it's just supposed to be slow crawling fog. And with these assets, we may actually want to speed them up using OFlow or a retime node inside of Nuke, whatever that might be. And of course, as that jet's flying through, we're going to want to have displaced fog. And that's pretty hard to do with 2D assets, but if we use multiple 2D assets in line, we can actually line things up exactly how we're going to want it. All right, let's set this to global because we're only doing a section of the shot. We're actually not doing the whole thing. Cool. That works pretty well. The smoke kind of just sits there though, and that might be fine for this layer of smoke that we're adding in. But we might want to go a little bit crazier with it. All right. So let's look at our smoke that we have, which is this guy here. We can add in an OFlow node. And we might want to pre-render this because OFlow can make comps pretty dang heavy. We'll set this to input here and just see exactly what it's doing. Now this is doing output speed of 0.5. We're going to want to, let's set it to like 5. Just play that back. Now you can see that the smoke is moving quite a bit faster. Could be a little bit closer to what we want. So let's go ahead and just use a right node. This way we're just pre-rendering stuff. We don't need to keep everything inside of the comp. Otherwise it makes your comp very, very heavy. So use a pre-render folder, and then I'm going to call this smoke 1. Just copy that, and let's go ahead and paste this in here. Just save these out as EXRs. They could be EXR linear files. Do create directory, save this, and then let's render that. Should go pretty quickly, and then we'll just load this in and use this as our image source rather than using this MOV file that we currently have loaded in. Shouldn't take too long, but this will save us so much time going forward. But for right now, guys, take the opportunity to hit the subscribe button. And we just crossed 2,000 subscribers this week. I'm super excited. As I said before, this is just a fun hobby. But it's great to test out different types of VFX shots every single week and live stream that with you guys. Great. Now that that's rendered, let's go ahead and load in these EXR files here. We're going to need to set the A to this as well as the mask. But once that happens, now we just have this EXR sequence. I might change the offset inside of this to be something like 900. Technically, it should be 999. That way it starts at frame 1000. And then, yeah, let's go ahead and see what this looks like now with faster fog. Set this to global. Normally, I start at frame 1000. This is non-standard for me to be doing this, but I tracked it inside of Blender, and I don't know when this happened, but I guess I only was tracking starting at frame 1011. So at some point that happened 3 weeks ago, and I didn't catch it. But it's all good. This VFX shot's not for anyone except for myself. So it's a little heavy on the smoke right now. It's a little heavy. So we might tone this back. But I think I'm liking the speed of it. Yeah, that's pretty nice. I love the speed of it. I just think that it's a little heavy. I'm going to adjust the opacity of this over inside of before it hits the card. Because right now I only have one smoke asset in here, but I want to have a bunch of smoke assets. And I don't want to overall adjust it. You can overall adjust it by using this merge node here, but as I said, I want to have more than one card in here, and I want some of them to have higher opacity or less opacity to them. So with that being said, I think we could just change that through this node here. Might just change the mix of this original merge. That's looking about right to me. I'm just eyeballing that. Let's go ahead and save that. Let's go ahead and find some more assets. Let's see what we can get here. I want an asset of like a dust wave, I think. Especially as the jet flies overhead, I want it to kind of kick up dust. That's pretty sweet. I might actually speed this up, though. Let's go ahead and save that, and we'll just drag that over and once we have it. It's over top views. That's probably towards camera, yeah. Front view. These can come off as a little, like the way they're actually making these is by shooting dust out. Side 8, is that the one I'm downloading? No. I like this one as well. I need 2 because there's 2 jets that are flying overhead, and I could use the same asset, but I think I know why my charger's not working. I can see it right now. I have a power splitter on my desk. It's not called a power splitter. It's, you know, like the thing that you plug a bunch of cables into. And I have it on my desk, and it's upside down right now. And I think it's probably because I was screwing with it, and I think I probably unplugged the actual power cable for it. So we'll have that fixed next week. Let's drag both these assets over into Nuke right now. Can I not drag? What's going on here? Is my Windows freezing now? I told you. Guys, I told you. It was going to be one software at a time. We were going to freeze one software at a time. I think my Windows is freezing now. There we go. Thank you. I'm going to drag both these over here. We'll just tag them both as our output 709. Cool. And then now we're going to need cards to have these placed in here. I think when the jet's flying overhead right here, we're going to want kind of around this section to be where the dust is getting kicked up. So we'll go view kind of what's going on here. And if we select this, let's find... Is there anything that pops up? No. I think this is the closest. We'll create a card around this section. And let's see. We'll go into 3D space here. I want to place this card onto our scene. And let's see. Grabbing this guy, we'll just place him further back and over. Fantastic. So, with this guy, if we place the asset onto it, just want to kind of line this up a little bit. I'm going to add in a time offset, even though we are going to do a speed ramp and then pre-render all this stuff out anyways later. I just kind of want to mostly line up the location of this. So let's just really quickly do it this way. Not ideal, but we just need to line this up. Probably do a transform and then flop this as well. Let's see. Place this out in 3D space here. Where's my card? There it is. Okay. I think I'm kind of happy with the location that is being placed in. It might need to be a little bit higher to interact with the ground. Did I take it too far back? Might want to push this down a little bit. Perfect. So now when the ship flies overhead, we kind of want that wind to kick up a bunch of the dust that's on the ground there. That's basically what we're going for. So with this flopped image that we have, let's use a O-flow on it. And set this to a value of 2. Let's just see what that looks like. I'm kind of fine with that. That looks pretty close to the initial speed that we're going to want. Maybe a little faster. Let's set that to 4. We'll do twice as fast and see what that looks like. Might be a little too fast. We might need to do a bit of a speed ramp for the end bit. Because it's not a consistent speed of the dust blow. It's more like the initial interaction of it should be really kicking it up. Or actually, no, it does fall off there. I quite like that. So we'll use this O-flow here. And let's go ahead and render that out. So we'll go ahead and select our pre-render folder. Dust 1. Go ahead and just render that out. We're not trying to render out any alpha channel or anything like that, so don't worry about any of that. And we'll just select create directory. And just render that out real quick. Now again, we could probably use this same asset twice rather than trying to use a whole nother asset. But I think since we have the time, might as well just use this other asset. We have the other asset. I'm just saying, I could be lazy, but I'm not gonna, okay? How was your guys' Thanksgiving weekend? For those of you who did celebrate Thanksgiving, did you guys eat turkey? We have a tradition of eating different pies and comparing them in our family. So my mom makes 3 different pies of the same type of pie and compares the 3 of them. It's quite interesting. We'll go ahead and load that dust in now. Using the same time offset as before, it's probably not necessarily a bad idea. Let's find roughly where this flight of the Phoenix happens. Let's just play this back here. This will be the first one, so frame 29, I think it should be roughly starting. Oh, well. Should have done that here where the time offset's actually happening. So frame, I would say 40/41. I think we're going to want to have this to kind of come in. So a little more time. Might do something like that. Maybe even less. There we go. Let's just see how that merges in. So this is where our ship is kind of flying overhead. And let's just play that back here. And hopefully our timing is correct on that dust. And it should just kick up as it's flying overhead. It might need to be faster. With how fast the jet is flying, it's either got to be more delayed or... There it is. That's actually pretty sweet. I think it needs to be faster, though. Oh, that's actually nice. Because the dust isn't going to fly as fast as the jet, but it's going to be kind of like kicked up. That's pretty sweet. I like that. That's actually good timing. Might make the second one a little bit faster. But this first one... Okay. Let's go in and add in this next one. So we're just going to use the exact same node setup that we used before. So just copy paste that. Let's make sure to use input here. Let's make sure, yep, it's coming the same direction. I like that it's lower. Let's change the O flow here to be a little bit faster. I might do a 6. Let's do a 6. See how fast that is. Yes. Just because it's more squished, I feel like it should be a little bit quicker. And then we'll set this output right node to dust2 for both the folder as well as the file name. And just output that. See how simple that was, guys? No need for crazy, finicky setups. While we're at it, let's just organize this a little bit more. Dust waves. Now we got our dust waves kind of happen over here. Now that's finished rendering. Let's go and load in the dust number 2, which is actually this guy over here. Let's go and load him in. And I want to kind of copy this card. We'll just copy him for right now. And then we'll copy paste this whole setup that we have here. Although we're going to have to change the time offset to be slightly different. Also, kind of the general placement of this card. So let's see. If we go into 3D space here, we actually have all of our assets lined up. We can just grab this guy. I want to make him a little more rotated slightly. Let's do that. And then let's make it a little closer to camera. A little closer to camera and a little further back. Let's try that. Now with our time offset that we have, let's go check out our timing again. So we have jet number 1, jet number 2. So that's happening around 1050. Again, if we go back over here, honestly, that's already quite lined up. So let's just see how that looks. Everything in playback. Might have to adjust it by like a frame or two, but honestly, it's pretty damn close. So that what? First one, he's a little higher up anyways. Then the second one, woof. Might want to change the opacity of that second one a little bit. Yeah. Let's do this. Let's do that. We're going to set that back a little bit. And I'm going to do a naughty. There we go. Okay, and that should just jet across there. Thinking maybe even doubling it again. There we go. Heavy smoke, baby. So that's going to kick up a little bit of dust. And then, boom, that guy comes in. Really kicks it. I like that. That's pretty nice. I'll say let's grade these to look a little bit better or a little closer to the rest of our dust that we're having here. I think that's going to be important. So let's do... We have this grade adjustment node here, and that's basically setting it to this brown value that we have. And we need to do that to all of our dust. Okay? So let's go ahead and add in a grade node to these guys. And of course, if we go to this whole shot, I need to set the white point of these to here. Now, the reason why we're going to do this is we basically are trying to make these more whites. That way they match the other objects, because the other objects... Well, actually, wait, what am I doing? We have a way easier way of doing this. I'm overthinking this. Add in a saturation node, desat these guys. Now they're gray smoke. Perfect. Copy, paste. Now these are going to match your gray smoke elements that we have. Okay? That's these guys. Boom, boom. Basically identical. Copy, paste our grade nodes. After the saturation, that reapplies the dust effect that we've already done. Now you've got yourself the correct color. Boom. Boom. And that's basically just going through desatting the dust that they already had inside of the initial plates and then reapplying a grade. The reason I did this way was because I already have a grade from Grayscale, so it just makes everything more consistent. I don't have to worry about trying to match everything through different techniques. Okay, that works really nicely. Now that we have that in there, I think the actual ships flying overhead would be nice to have a slight bit of some kind of effect, like where we're seeing some warbling in the background here. Now we can do that through the easiest method, I think, is going to be just creating a roto node. So let's just add in a roto node. And let's do all of this before our actual fighter jet gets added. Oh, no, it has to be after, because it's not just the fighter jet. It has to be this background. Whoops, what am I doing here? Okay, great. Now we have our roto node. Let's add in kind of like a roto of behind it. I might even delete that. And let's just feather the hell out of this. I'm just going to feather the hell out of the outside of this guy. Specifically of where it came from. And we're creating like these trails is really what we're going to be doing here. So do that. And yeah, I'm going to just add in a point here. Also blur this to Kingdom Come. And we're going to add in a blur node. And all this is going to do is just have a slight bit of a flang to it. So, roto node. Oh, that's right. I have to pre-multiply this. I'm like, what's going on here? There we go. Whop. And I almost don't want to use this. Let's use that as our initial. There we go. That's going to create the actual alpha channel that we are so desiring. And then this is going to kind of blur out everything and create kind of like this feathered edge here, which I think is pretty sweet. The only thing we don't want for sure is to blur the actual jet streaks here, because I think that is going to take away from that effect. So if we go ahead and add in a Cryptomatte, and actually this Cryptomatte needs to come from that point there. I might even just add another point in like so and just hide the input of it. Cool. Now with this Cryptomatte, let's go ahead and view it real quick. You'll notice that, whoops, we can actually select our ship here. We're going to want to make sure to select our ship. Let's select our second ship as well, so that way we have a Cryptomatte of both ships. Perfect. And from our roto blur that we're doing here, we're actually just going to use the mask input of this, and actually we can actually just, this is a lot easier, just use the stencil, whoops, not soft light, but stencil of the merge here, and you'll notice whoops, I actually don't know what frame we were doing that on. Oh, I guess it's this frame here. You'll notice now that because we did that, we're actually not going to be erasing the streaks that we had. If we just have this here, that actually fixes our problem. So now we just need to make sure that we animate this to move with our fighter jet. And that's pretty clear cut. Just following the back edge of that. Sound design on this is always going to be, you know, the real kicker for how that turns out. Okay, great. Let's just see what that looks like real quick. And instead of using a blur, we can always try using a directional blur as well. And let's change this blur length here. Let's change the angle as well, just to match our... Why is my blur angle not changing? Blur length, blur center. Target? What is... Maybe not. Let's just stick with blur. I never know how the directional blur thing works with this. And then I'm also going to take this and maybe not desat it, but I'm thinking if we lift it a little bit by changing the contrast, make it slightly less contrasty, you're going to get kind of more of that soft kind of jet, I don't know, atmospheric feel to it. That's pretty subtle. And we'll do another one. Let's do another one here. And again, we'll just add our Cryptomattes in, or not our Cryptomattes, but the same on the same roto node. I'm going to draw out our lines there. Pretty, trying to like create kind of like more of this effect that the jets are like leaving off this trail. I think that might work as well. So we'll go ahead and just select that and then add a few keyframes in here. It's pretty easy to do because it's like not that many frames, but you know, we could have done this in 3D as well by adding in some kind of like cloth trails behind it. I think that's what I've seen some other people do, and that usually works pretty well as well. But today's about compositing and fixing shitty CG. That's what we're doing today. That's cool. Yeah, that looks pretty sweet. I like that a lot, actually. It's very subtle, but I think it adds like this nice little atmospheric effect to everything. Okay. Now, once we add in the smoke on top of all of that, that might complete it for atmosphere for us today. A lot of these things are just like little bits here and there. These are the dust trails, smoke. Just keep all of that organized a little bit better. And then, as I was mentioning earlier, we might actually want to do some kind of like explosion hit or something like that as well. So we actually have different explosion hit assets that we can grab from. We've got like ground bursts, these exploding debris, which I think are pretty sweet. Might drop one of these guys in. Like that, it's a little more angled. I don't know, are we in this angle? Not really. It's a little higher. I feel like with explosions, you have to map quite a bit of different assets on top of each other in order to really make it work. It's got bullet hits. These are some dust explosions. These are pretty side angle though. Ground bursts. I think this is more like implosion type effects. I like that quite a bit. That's pretty nice. Okay. Interestingly, we might actually be able to... Let's see. Okay, let's go ahead and after this, we're going to go ahead and add in some grain. I like to use Furnace Core's regrain node, especially for stuff that I don't actually have the initial grain on. They shoot a lot of their or stock footage for action VFX with like quite little grain, and I like grain, so I mean not even that much. Like I'm only adding in this much. You guys might not even be able to see it on the live stream. It's really not that much grain, but it just helps everything kind of like sit inside of the environment a little bit better. So I'm going to add in a little bit of regrain on top of everything. The other couple things I want to do inside of my comp here to help blend everything together is that we actually have our CG stuff that we're importing here, and then we're doing all this grade stuff. Let's go ahead and then add in a light wrap. This has helped to blend the sky into our CG environment a little bit better. I mean, we already did a pretty good job, but I want to just add in that little extra chef's kiss of blending stuff together. So we're just going to add in this light wrap, change the intensity here, and you'll notice right off the bat, this is really what we're going for. This part here. Change the diffuse a little bit. And I don't know why we're getting that as well. This should just be... like, it shouldn't be focused on... Is it because of the motion blur? You know what? We'll just do that. I don't care. I don't understand. Why is it generate disable lumen space, enable luminant, enable glow, use constant highlights, diffuse, should be reformatted to the same resolution. Let's use a crop. Okay, that actually works.
So we're just adding kind of like this overall kind of like atmospheric glow there to everything. I'm going to just change the intensity value to be a little bit less. Perfect. And then after our regrain, actually before our regrain, just use again, we undistorted everything from before. Now did I delete everything there? I did. It's unfortunate. I can output this from Blender, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to use my own redistortion node here. And we're going to eyeball it to what it originally was. Not even that much. It's just a little bit. Again, we could have outputted from the camera track the lens distortion that was inside of Blender, but I think for our purposes here, I think this is fine. Not as great practice as actually looping stuff, but you know, that's going to be fine for us. And then the only other thing I really kind of want to do is overall on our footage here, I kind of want to glow everything. So there's like a minor amount of glowing that I think really helps your CG stuff, because right now our stuff is pretty crystal clear with how everything looks. So let's go ahead and add in a glow. And then we're going to make some adjustments here. First of all, let's change the tolerance here to be something really small. And we'll change the brightness value as well to be like half of this. Change the saturation. We're not trying to saturate this, so again, try to desat that, and then we'll just change this size to be, again, probably like a 20 or something like that. We're not going to want a lot of this though, so let's do effect only, and then we're going to merge this back over top of our original CG material that we have. And by doing this, it'll allow us to use a screen multiplier and then have the adjustment of this be something like 0.4. So a lot smaller. But what this is doing is allowing us to add in like this extra little atmospheric glow. I don't even think we need that much. We'll probably just do a little bit. Like 0.2 or even like a 0.7. That works pretty well. And that's just kind of like adding in overall small atmospheric glow. I'm going to do a couple more of these. So the next one, let's just target the larger areas of the glow. Probably set this to a larger tolerance value of like 0.5. And then we'll set the brightness of this to be a little bit brighter than the other one. And we'll also set the saturation to the same value. But the size of this is going to be a lot smaller. And again, if we do effect only, we can kind of see exactly what it's doing here. It's not doing that much for our glow. We'll just merge that back over top with a screen multiplier on top of our original shot. And again, this will allow us to control how much of this that we're really trying to do. This is the small areas of the glow that will help sell that kind of like realism on our CG. And then again, we'll probably just take this whole thing and we'll just blur it by like 600. And then merge that back over top of everything. So merge it. And again, just do another screen multiplier. And we're just going to make this super small. This is your overall atmosphere adjustment that we're doing here. Great. And that is good for that. This is going to kind of like line everything up as far as like the glow and atmosphere is concerned. We can check against. Even thinking, just from the nature of this, let's grab this whole glow that we're doing here. And we're going to do this after the merge. Perfect. And let's just play that back.
By the way, these guys that we have here, we actually have the channels of them running, and we can feed this into specific channels so the colorist can later adjust this. I haven't really gone through this before on any of my streams because we don't usually send this stuff off to colorists. But if we did want to, we could totally feed a colorist different mats and whatnot. Let's just cache this whole thing, and I'll show you that next step. But we can shuffle these into specific Cryptomatte, or not Cryptomatte, but specific channels, and then feed that to into the EXRs. That way the colorist will be able to access all of that stuff later. It makes it a lot easier for the colors to make adjustments on their end if there's any color specific things. So like if they're sitting inside of a color session, they're like, hey, can we make these guys a little bit more visible because they're blending a little bit too much into the background? Then, you know, that can help adjust for that. Why am I live twice? Well, one is a vertical live stream and the other one is a horizontal live stream. The way if somebody is watching it, I think it just shows up on the YouTube Shorts streaming thing a little bit easier. I don't know. YouTube recommended I did it, so that's why I'm doing it. I definitely recommend the one you're on, which is the horizontal stream. But yeah, the one is vertical. And then today I don't have my camera on, so the layouts of everything is a little screwed up, but it's fine. We will fix that for next week. I'm fairly certain I know what I did. I bumped the power cable, and so it's not charging the camera, and I don't actually have battery in the camera right now, so it just keeps shutting off after like 10 seconds. All right, let's see what this looks like here. I might make the dirt less saturated, especially for the dust waves. Oof. Yeah, I am not a fan of this this up there. That's not working for me. Let's change this. Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it. I'm working on it. That's what these streams are all about. It's getting a little bit better. I do a little less blur on this. That way it's not so... It was a little too blurred. And, but it's got to be there, but not too... It's got to be more subtle. Okay. And the only other thing I was noticing was that I did remove this light wrap that we have here. I just don't think that works for us. And then the dust waves that we have going on, let's make these not as saturated. What does it look like if we just disabled this completely? Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm thinking it's just got to be a little less. So if we desat it half, maybe not even quite half. Let's do 0.75 or something like that. Oh, that's nice. I like that. We'll just copy paste that here. So basically what I'm doing is I just added a, I just added a saturation node in and set those to 0.75 after these dust waves here. So that way we're just adjusting that to be slightly less saturated as it's kicking up more of this white powdery dirt than the crusty clay color. But you have to go 12 a.m. in Belgium. Oh, thanks. Well, thanks for dropping by. I appreciate it. No, all good. I've noticed that we've actually gotten quite a bit new people on the stream today rather than the some of the usual people. This is a little bit of a weird weekend, I think, for most people. But thanks for dropping by. I really appreciate it. Hope to see you at the next stream. As we tackle a new shot, because this is going to be the last stream on this one. All right, is there? That's right. Okay, there is. I noticed it I noticed it. I was like, this first frame is always just feeling like it's not lining up. And it's because it's not. We got to set this to 12. There we go. We actually have one less frame than we thought we did. Okay, I'm just going to play this back here. Let's just check to see how everything is looking here. And then we might shuffle some mats into our channel. That way colorists can adjust these things later. Actually, you know what? Screw it. Let's... I think these guys are just... How do we feel about these guys? Do we want them to be a little more... Let's add a grade node in. Do another Cryptomatte here. And if we view this, let's just select these guys. These are our guys running in our CG shot. Do we want them brighter? Do we want them darker? What's going on here? Did I not select these guys? I have them right there. Oh, wait a second. This needs to be reformatted, I think. Yeah, that's why. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, we're just going to darken these guys a little bit. Is that okay? Should we darken them or lighten them? I don't know what we should do here. I think darkening them is not the answer. I would think lightening them is. Making them a little bit brighter. What if we edge blurred this a little bit? That way we're eating into it, so that way it's not lifting the edges as much. You can kind of tell what we're doing here by the alpha channel. We're just kind of like blurring that edge. It's more of like a colorist thing. Usually in VFX you want to have like really sharp edges, but okay. Another thing I want to do real quick while I'm thinking about it is let's add a constant in with the value set to 1, and then we're going to add in a shuffle node and setting the A to this constant. I don't know if there's a better way to do this, but this is the way I've been doing it, is just feeding in the A, like one of the channels into the alpha here, so that now that's setting everything like that. Otherwise, what happens is that using your merge node, you're actually keeping the alpha channel from your A input there, and then that's being fed down the line. That can actually be very detrimental if you send it to a colorist, because they'll be viewing it with the incorrect alpha channels. So setting your shuffle node here where you're adjusting your alpha is the best way to do or fix that. I don't know if that's the best way to fix it, but it's just the way that I have found to fix it pretty easily. That doesn't take a lot of processing power. So we're going to go ahead and play this back again and then just see how these guys are running through the 3D scene track. Today's a weird day for me too. I have like a bit of a headache. I don't know why. Like this whole day I felt off. Yeah, those smoke blurs now actually have the are not blurring the back of the fighter as they're flying through anymore. For some reason I wasn't understanding why the stencil wasn't working with the Cryptomatte, but now that makes a lot more sense. I'll just move this over here. Sometimes I wish things just play back immediately. Okay. We're just going to let this finish caching here. And I'm thinking this is pretty close to a finished shot. I'm thinking. All of a sudden recently, I've been getting notifications on my phone every time someone follows me. And I'm like, I never turned that on. I don't want that. Why does Instagram have to keep changing things? You know? They keep making things slightly more annoying. Stop making things more annoying. Oh, am I running out of memory? My CPU just hit 100%. My computer is frying. It's okay, though. We will endeavor to push forward on this VFX shot. Yeah, okay. Oh, why are we running out of cache here? Is this something that I'm going to have to, like, restart Nuke on? I mean, it's doing it. It's just doing it very... now we're going. We're moving forward, guys. It's caching. Oh, man, we're so close. I just want to play this shot back, guys. By the way, what should my next live stream be? Now that we're done with this one, does anybody have any suggestions on what the future stream should be? Thinking I might do another, like, full Blender render thing. So just a full CG shot in Blender. We could focus on more of a compositing shot. Oh, there we go. Yeah, guys, I like that. Look at them fly. Well, there you go. I think that's the end of this tutorial series on creating a set extension with these different elements. You can grab these 3D elements, by the way. This is the Abrams tank from Action VFX. And then these jets are the fighter jets from Action VFX as well. You can grab all those 3D assets. As I mentioned before, they have a sale going on right now where it's 30% off. So go grab those assets so that way you guys can mess around with it. If you guys want these project files, by the way, they're all available on my Patreon. You can get them on the one tier on Patreon. I upload all the project files after the live streams are complete. Sorry for the technical difficulties with the camera today. I don't know what other than that. Maybe it's this cable's not plugged in or something. I'll have to fix that. But we'll get that going. We'll get that all fixed up. I like this, though. I think this turned out great. Thank you guys so much for watching this stream, you know, and making sure this happens. Again, a huge special thanks to the Patreon members that are part of our Patreon already that make these streams happen. I'll go ahead. My camera's not on, so it's like I'll just disable my camera. Is that the best way to do this? Just go over here and there we go. Deactivate that. Thank you. And these are our top Patreons, of course, for our Patreon members. You guys can grab our project files from this live stream over on the Patreon and grab that as soon as this stream is over. I hope to see you guys again next week. If you guys have any suggestions of what you would like to see go ahead and leave that in the comments below. I always look forward to seeing your guys' comments and what you guys are asking for. The full cut down of this should be up this week, up on the Patreon, and then I'll be uploading that, I think, next week over onto the regular YouTube channel. So thank you guys again for watching and hanging out, and I will see you guys again next week with a whole new live stream. So make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the like button below, so that way you guys don't miss our future streams and all the stuff we're doing. But thank you guys again. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.